Rajesh Jejurika, this is something that Mahindra and Mahindra has decided to prioritize. I know this right at the leadership level, from Anish to you, you are championing the idea of making the workforce much more diverse and inclusive. Explain to me what you've done that's working, and what are you setting targets for yourself, for instance? What are you going about addressing by way of culture to ensure that this changes?
Yeah. Thanks, Shereen, and great to be on this panel. And let me just build from where Prabha left off, and which was the last part of your question. And that's around targets. And, that's something we've debated at every level, including at our board, and taken a very conscious call that we will not have targets. And we actually consulted with many women leaders in the organization, and every one of them felt that that's the worst thing we can do. Because no woman, like you said, wants to feel that they made it because there was a target or a quota. So, every woman wants to get there on merit. It's the role of the organization to create enablers and facilitate the process. And that, I think, is the key leadership role. So, while we have targets on so many other parameters, I think this is one area we've got to realize that there is a sensitivity and a softness and an emotion which needs to be addressed, and a commitment which is to come truly from within. And also a mindset, especially in the industry some of us operate in, that it's not something that can happen instantly and overnight. And so I'll just take a couple of minutes talking about things which are important, things which need focus. So, and I'm going to talk starting from the workforce, because, when we talk about overall numbers as a nation by way of contribution of women to the workforce, getting women in manufacturing, which is really the core of our business, really is a very high priority, and that's where we are putting most of our focus on. So firstly, manufacturing lines which we are creating, concepts like paint shop will have only women. Some of the assembly lines, we've identified some cells which will have 40–50% women. The critical thing here, firstly, is reaching out to villages around the plant and creating a perception of it being a safe workplace, because that is very important in the society in which they live. So the ability to transport them in and back. When women go back late at night, we have a system by which the HR gets message that they've got dropped home safely. So, there are multiple things, cameras around the plant. So really, creating a very positive word of mouth that it's safe for women to be here. So that we think is a key enabler. The other one is working closely with the training institutes like ITI and many others to create. We have a program called Kabil, and we are associated with 2,000 institutions, which is skill building. So firstly, how do you create the desire, then the education, and then, of course, the retention. So that's at the entry level. As we go up the rest of the leadership hierarchy, and, I think the key challenge has been women dropping out of workplace. Yeah. And which is where you spoke about the maternity policy. So we've introduced a maternity policy a year back, which gives a lot of flexibility to women. Supports them with allowances during that period of time. But really what they need is the time flexibility. And we give almost a window of 3 years with complete flexibility on timing. And the other program we've launched is something we call SOAR, which is, we just started, and that's not S-O-R-E, it's S-O-A-R, which is to attract women back who've taken a gap in their work careers. And then run a mentorship and training program to help them get back. So we're starting with 25 women we've just started who have had 5 years experience and taken a break of 18 months to 3 years and then want to come back. So I think we've got to address this at multiple levels, starting from the entry level. We often try to solve for this in industries at the leadership level, and I think that's not the right place to start. The leadership is to focus on how to make it happen.
Absolutely, and we do need to have a bottoms-up approach. I completely agree with you there, and then work your way to the top. But, you're talking about safety, and I remember one of our panelists here on Future Female Forward had spoken about when they were setting up their manufacturing facility, and it was in the hinterlands in I think, Rajasthan somewhere, and they decided to do something which was innovative. They decided to call the mothers-in-law into the workspace to come and have a look at where their daughters-in-law were going to go to work. And once you got the buy-in from mothers-in-law, you actually saw the rate of women joining the workforce go up significantly. So, you know, you've really got to customize solutions. You've got to think out of the box, and you've got to think on your feet. Speaking about maternity and return to work, Ameera, Shah, let me come to you, because Ameera has got 3 children, twins, and her 5-year-old just celebrated a birthday yesterday. So I want to understand from you, Ameera, because this is a big challenge, especially when we talk about women opting out of the workforce. As someone who's gone through this yourself, as a leader, how do you shape policy? How do you shape decisions that will provide a facilitating, enabling environment to ensure that women don't find it easier to opt out?
You know, frankly, Shereen, it's very easy to opt out, because I think once you have children, there's a nice cocoon at home in which you feel very comfortable and happy and safe, and you don't feel the need to go out at all. And honestly, salute to the women who actually choose to say, you know what, I'm going to give it my all at work, I'm going to give it all my home, and I can actually do it all. And it's amazing, because it's such a hard thing to do and to balance. It's really incredible. But I think if we truly want to see transformational change in India, I think we don't need to look that far. We need to also borrow from other countries. And just to bring up the elephant in the room, right? First, the question is, why should we close the gap? That's the first question. Honestly, when I've been on the board of so many companies, when I bring this point up, sometimes people just say, but why? It's neither helping my business, there's no business case, it's not helping my P&L, it's not doing this, so why should I do it? And in the US, you talked about the tyranny of diversity. I mean, in the US, you see with the new president coming in, a lot of that is going backwards, right? So it just tells you that corporates react to either carrot or stick. The idea of doing the right thing is not necessarily so common and so prevalent. So there was a sort of a stick at that point in the US. People were pushing for D&I. Now it's not there, so everyone's sort of going backwards. So in India, we got to decide, hey, are we going to use carrot or stick? Because something is needed. Because people alone just to do the right thing, here we may be preaching to the choir of the converted, but that may not be true for the rest of the country, even the top 2,000 businesses in the country. So in my mind, we really need to talk about transformational policy. If you look at Vietnam, for example, they've created some amazing incentive programs for corporates who are hiring more women. Right? They've created different tax structures. Besides creating, like you talked about, workplace safety, manufacturing companies have created all-night work women shifts. So only women work at night in that shift. So whether the mother-in-law is comfortable or not, she knows that, hey, there's no other man there, my daughter or my daughter-in-law is safe. So I think there are some very fundamental things other countries have done. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can borrow those ideas and make it true for India. But I think the most important thing is you have men in power today. Getting those men in power to identify with a problem which they don't feel today because they have not gone through it is difficult. It's difficult for them, it's difficult for the women. I think we need a carrot or stick. We need a push from government, or we need a pull, an incentive scheme to drive it till it becomes a habit. Nobody questions, that's at some point, men's arms used to be cut off when they made a mistake. Taj Mahal and guillotine and all of that. And in today's corporate world, that would be just ridiculous. But that was normal at the time. I mean, today, the fact that we're talking about women getting paid differently just seems like a ridiculous idea. Yeah. I mean, 20 years later, I'm assuming this is not going to be common practice.
Well, we certainly hope it won't be common practice. That's really the idea. But you're right in pointing out that there needs to perhaps be a carrot and a stick approach. And look, the stick has worked to some degree when we decided to mandate company boards to actually bring women independent directors on board. You actually saw the data tell you that there was a change. So sometimes, as Ameera was pointing out, you do need the stick to be wielded to make change happen.